Hey guys, it's your boy Gabriel the Wolf Pack coming to you with that morning boost. A boost. I'm so grateful you stopped by for a little spiritual nourishment. And so the thing is that it's about the undoing. So the undoing of the self and the reason thereof, the purpose of it. So the big thing with it all is that what happens is that often our self concepts revolve around these things of hate and fear and just these false imaginings. And we create this self that is very unloving, all too often, very judgmental, very petty, and is in need of correction, of reformation, as it were. And so that obscures our holy sight when we intrude our world upon it, as it were, because it has to be X, Y, and Z. Oh, these people are horrible because of what have you. And so, and we can't see the holy sights that Christ looks upon because the Christ is within us. We obscure that unless it's His vision we use. And what better way to use His vision than through blessing and forgiving and loving? Like those are the sights of the Christ. And so one thing to remember is that perception is not a fact, but it's a mirror. And what you look on is your state of mind actually, and it's being reflected outward. And so that's why it's so important to with the undoing of the self. And I'm obviously still working on it just as much as we all are. But it's one of those things where different things will come up. And you got to wonder how many opportunities of happiness you've forgone, or how many times and this often happens when we break up with somebody, and there's all this nastiness, and I'm like, was that really what was supposed to happen? In all honesty, and you got to think, oh, it was that self concept that you had developed, and that's why it didn't work out, is because you're trying to go down a path that that is of you intruding upon a self that's not supposed to be. So that's why it becomes like a toxic relationship and things of that nature. And so the purpose of it is that from us undoing these self concepts, we're able to better see the holy sights and be able to better use our Christ vision instead of our worldly vision, as it were, that would see this world as separate, isolated. Oh my gosh, these things are everybody's so sinful and horrible. That's something that we've got to correct within the Christian nation, because there's a lot of that going on that it's just a lot of guilt imposing, because it's not unto us to try to change our brother, but to merely accept him as he is, and also then not to confound or judge, certainly not to judge which we don't understand. And how many of us really understand what someone's going through? We hardly say we can understand it if we condemn them, and we've got that laser sharp deadly aim of saying, oh, you did X, Y, and Z, everyone's so horrible. And I falter with that. Yeah, I'll be true with you there. But it's about recognizing, I think at the very least we got to recognize, okay, we have to be willing to look at this a little bit differently. I mean, Jesus says, before you make mention of the mote in your brother's eye, just a little bit of dust, which is what mote means, take out the stick in yours. So that's one of those things where I think a lot of us as Christians, we've gotten into this really weird concept where we've tried to find ways to justify why we can condemn and judge others. Even David talks about hey, God, help me out because I have condemnation in my heart. Just because they're not believers doesn't somehow then entitle you to judge or condemn them, as it were. And it's not because, oh, you're all just horrible, sinful people, so you're just as bad as them. But rather, we're all going through these insane thoughts that would keep us so that would make us believe that we're somehow separate. So it doesn't do us any good, and it doesn't do them any good for us to just be beating up on each other. Okay, so that's the thing of it all, folks. Yeah, and really, really, with these self concepts, it's not ever your brother's sins that you hate, but it's your own that you hate because of X, Y, and Z. And it's often because your brother is not, you are what you would have your brother be. And so the fact that he isn't, then you get frustrated and things like that. And a lot of these things are just needing to be undone because what it is that it's not, and I think one thing you got to remember is that there are aspects of yourself that you have to be willing to undo, and being willing, like, let's say you're in a situation where it seems like you're getting frustrated because things aren't going your way, or people acting in a way that you're like, man, they shouldn't be acting that way. Well, maybe in part it's you who needs to be willing to, like, one, chill out and not, look at it as, okay, for me, I need to recognize that, it's not my place to judge them and to condemn them, and to be willing to let that aspect of myself that would judge them and be hateful, to allow that to be undone. Sure, they very well themselves need to probably reconcile some aspect of themselves, their self-concept, that needs to be undone because they're acting in a way that isn't perhaps the best, most loving or what have you. But for us, all you can do is focus on correcting yourself, not even you correcting, allowing correction to be done unto you. And the cool thing about all this, though, is that because remember, perception is a mirror. So what you're doing is that it's amazing how forgiveness is the aligner, is the great aligner of thought, because it brings stuff back into alignment through forgiveness. And because you're forgiving, you're not so inclined to be, hating on other people. And then because of that, you don't uphold it. And so it creates this really nice balance and just sort of state of tranquility, because you're not so worked up about what everybody else isn't doing right, but you're just allowing that love to be given. And it's amazing how that is the key dynamic that allows the healing to take place. So many of us talk about, the healing that needs to be happening. But what are we doing within ourselves to see that happen? Because with the forgiveness leads the way for the Christ vision to come, as it were. So through that forgiveness, it opens it up. Because what happens is you have yourself in a state of undoneness, as it were. And you're open now for correction and a new state of thought to be retranslated. So the first step is to neutralize and diffuse the situation, bring it back to a base state. And then from there, though, it's imperative then that you allow yourself to then be open for forgiveness. That's the key part, because when we first just undo ourselves, we feel kind of lost, like, who am I then? But that forgiveness, now you can let it be filled. You allowed your cup to be emptied, and now it can be filled with the right water, so to speak. And it's clear and shiny and holy and pure. And that's the cup for which we should drink from. But that's what I got for you guys. A little bit longer than usual. Double feature. I don't know. Sometimes you just got to preach up in here, But as I teach, it teaches me. So I learn as I help you guys learn. But hope this has helped. Hope this has helped you kind of figure out the importance and the purpose of why we do this sort of undoing thing to begin with. So anyways, hope this has helped. Share it, comment, subscribe, all that good jazz. And let's go out and have our true selves be recognized through the undoing of these worldly selves, so we can better see that with that vision of Christ. Okay, see you guys.